Welcome, everybody, to our very first podcast. I am your host, Brandon Clary. Jesse Johnson is your co-host. Jesse, how are you this morning?
I'm great, Brandon. I'm excited to talk about this Raw that happened over a week ago. We're a little late to the party, but we're ready
Why
to
are we
go.
so late to the party? What
Um,
happened?
we had some technical difficulties, to put it lightly, or
We
maybe
couldn't
you had some technical difficulties.
couldn't use the world's most popular podcasting software. It took us an hour. Resulted in me crying from laughing to my blood boiling so badly we had to stop. All the range of emotions you could experience on any given Monday night.
Yeah, and I also think you tried to pin it on me at one point, and that didn't really work out. So I'm glad we're here.
I was scapegoating. It's a common term.
You
I
were
might get it tattooed on my shoulder. We'll see.
All right.
So, what did you think of the show? Did you watch? It's hard
I
to get you to
watched.
watch anything.
It is, but you know what? Okay, here's the thing. I watched it, and I probably watched it in a different way than everybody else watched it. So I watched the first 30 minutes live, and then the rest of the show I watched late at night on an iPad in bed. But that's how I watched the show. And
Why? Was that because of just things that were going on at the house, at Jamie and your family, or was it because you just stopped watching after 30 minutes because you thought it sucked?
Yeah, no, I watched it like the first part live, and then I had to go like pick Jamie up from daycare, and then family time at night, dinner, all that stuff. Then when everybody's asleep, I could get my pro wrestling fix at that point.
Well, I watched the entire thing live because I was jacked up for it, like it was a PLE, and it certainly didn't feel like one. I'll give you that as a little spoiler into what I thought about it.
Oh, so you didn't like it?
I hated it.
Oh,
I hated it. I went into it wanting to like it so much. It was, I don't know if I can say this because there were so many weak episodes historically under Vince, but this was the worst Raw that I can ever remember.
interesting perspective, because I didn't feel that. I didn't hate it. It wasn't
I don't think you're unique in that opinion.
interesting. So when they open this, it comes on, it's live. They start with all these intros. They're at the arena. I think Michael Cole is kind of starting and talking a bit. And also, I got to give it to Cole. He was clearly sick. Clearly, like, had, some sort of respiratory thing that's going around. And I could see, like, the cough candies on his desk that he was popping. I could hear his nasally voice, just like mine, because I'm doing this podcast. Well, I'm not sick. I just still nasally from being sick before. But anyways, I feel for the guy, because he had to sit there for 2.5 hours being excited when he was probably just wanting to go home and sleep or something. So good for him. But one thing I liked was, and I don't know, I don't watch wrestling anymore. So this was the first wrestling I watched in a long time. I like those arena arrivals. It kind of gave me like UFC vibes, big, the guys and gals coming to the arena and rolling up, and the old school Raw feel when like Austin would come to the arena and people would be excited about it. I like that thing. I don't know if that's something they do every show, but I liked it on this show.
Yeah, but newsflash, this is not the UFC. This is the WWE. Okay, and Stone Cold was rolling up to Raw. He was driving in a pickup truck. He wasn't walking in a suit down an aisle for photo ops the entire time. Like I don't even want to say the general just like commercialization of it, but just my main problem wasn't so much the wrestling content that they had. I liked some of the matches and I liked some of the stories, but just the feel of the show. Like I don't know let's say the show was 30% wrestling material, 70% showing people in the crowd talking endlessly, going on about that this was on Netflix. Like, just, I don't know how many times they needed to refer to that. The Rock said, well, they've come back to Netflix. Well, you've never been on Netflix. Raw's never been on Netflix. Just over and over and over again. It was driving me crazy.
Okay, so that's I'm glad you brought that up because I agree. I didn't like that about the show, and I think there was too many like fillers in the show. Like I don't know how many times they ran that Royal Rumble promo and talked about the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia and stuff, and other events coming, like SmackDown in Toronto, and I don't know. They just kept running ads for other shows that are happening, so it just felt like a lot of their own promo material between matches. So when I watched it live, I feel like I saw so I did 30 minutes. What is that? Like the Triple H segment, maybe the Rock segment. And that was all that was really in that 30 minutes other than ads, arena shots, drones coming into the arena and stuff. So when I wasn't watching it live anymore, I was constantly fast forwarding through a lot of that stuff. And it was a lot to fast forward through. And I also feel like when I was watching it non-live, they would the match would be on, and then it would go to like a, it was almost like they were cutting to commercial, like the screen would go dark, and then a second later it would come back on, like they just came back. So I wonder if live they were running some sort of ad there that I didn't see because I was watching it after the fact at that point.
Well, no, that's what it was like for me as well. So it was like they would like prep to cut the commercial, but then just immediately come back.
Weird.
It was really weird. There was a lot of weird things on it. Like even at the very beginning, like Cole was like the very first time they were getting ready to kiss Netflix feet. It was, he was just like, oh, and I am really proud to say, and then just went like completely silent for like 20 seconds.
Oh, the audio.
Raw is on Netflix. And I was like, do you not know what to say? So as good as the presentation seemed to be from that big fight feel, there was like a missing kind of cadence to it. Like how I felt about it was it's like wrestling. A wrestling program isn't about a series of matches that are taking place. The reason the UFC works is because it's just about the fight, and then there's time to pass in between the fights. But wrestling is an episodic show. It's not like there's story that's streamed throughout. It's supposed to be threaded throughout. It's supposed to be like from the beginning to the end, kind of, for lack of a better term, total nonstop action. But this was just matches, and then
promo breaks.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so I really didn't. I thought it really took away from it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as like we get into it. But even just getting to like the beginning part with Triple H, like one of the big parts, my big criticisms of watching anything is you have to respect the rules of the universe that you're within. So if you're a time travel movie and you establish what the time travel rules are in part one, you can't break them in the sequel because then you're breaking reality. You're breaking people's ability to lose themselves in it. And the opening video, like, I feel like everyone knows wrestling is fake. By fake, I mean pre-planned. Not that they don't take big bumps, obviously. But why did Triple H need to say that there's, an element of truth in all of the stories? Like, he just openly admitted that it's choreographed, that it's put together. I just find that like really strange. If anything, you can do that at the end. You don't put like things that are put up. This movie is fake. They tell you if the movie is real. So I just didn't like that.
This movie is not based on a true story.
I don't know. I was immediately taken out of it. Like I wanted so badly to like it. And I was just immediately removed from it. And everybody else, I guess, thought Triple H had a great promo. Like I thought it sucked. I thought it was doomed from the get-go.
Funny thing about so I actually liked the video. I thought it might have been a good way of introducing the non-fan to wrestling. I think that it did a good job of talking about what it is and why people like you and I might like it, because that exact thing is why we talk about wrestling. A lot of the stuff we talk about is the stuff behind the scenes, you and I. And when you're trying to talk to somebody who isn't a fan, they don't get that aspect. All they see and all they know of wrestling is that it's two people that get in a ring and have a fake competition or a pre-planned competition. And that's all they really know about it. They don't know about interesting aspects of the behind the scenes. They don't know that CM Punk really left on bad terms for a while, or that the Bret Hart losing at Survivor Series was not a work.
We just have a Survivor Series 1997 reference. You haven't been watching.
I haven't been watching, no. So like,
You know what? Like I hear what you're saying, but sorry. Like the number one rule is you retain the customers that you already have. And maybe I'm alone, but the very first thing they're trying to do is get new customers.
well, this is a
Like
big
maybe you
opportunity
can get
for
new
them. This is a
customers
whole
by having
new-
an exciting opening.
Fair enough.
Like look at it this way. Sorry, go ahead.
I thought it was an exciting opening. I thought it was kind of cool talking about the carnival roots of pro wrestling and showing the history so that people can quickly learn about what's happened and who the characters were and are and how it is, it just generated excitement overall.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't disagree with any of that. I was pulled away from what I felt like was them openly admitting the business is a work, and I just don't care for that. I like when I watch Scream, I like to think that the ghost faces are capable of getting away with the murders. When I'm watching Back to the Future, I like to think that Marty and Doc can travel through time because you're living within the universe that you have. You don't need to. But anyway, I've gone on enough about that. So and then I felt like. Do you have anything else on Triple H's opening?
Well, Triple H's promo, I actually felt he was nervous. I don't know. I could sense some nerves from him.
I did not pick up on that.
No, I feel like this is just such a big thing that perhaps he was. I think this is a big audience for them. And when you come out there realizing that, oh wow, you're on Netflix live right now. Netflix hasn't done that many live things. They tested the waters with the Tyson fight, and then this is really new water for uncharted territories, and it's like it's on the front page of Netflix. I'm sure it's on the front page for everybody's Netflix. So
couldn't get away from it.
Yeah, there's curious people clicking into it that have never seen wrestling, and I think that the the overall magnitude of everything isn't lost on him, and how many people could have been watching his segment wasn't lost on him, and I felt like there was definite nerves in his promo. I felt it in his voice. I felt it in, his eyes, and almost seeing him stumble. Like, moments where I'm like, oh, he's going to stumble. And if he stumbles, this is going to be, set an odd tone for the show. But he relatively kept it together and kept everything short, his promo overall.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy it was short.
Well, it didn't, and I'll paint you a picture after this of what I thought they should have done. Then after that, it didn't take long for the Rock to come out, which I felt like was a good decision. And his pop was insane. I have insane underlined in my notes. Like, this was a hot crowd. Like, they were obviously ready to go. But like as an example of what I thought would be more of an exciting sort of start to the show, since there was already a struggle for authority in the past, like I was kind of hoping The Rock would interrupt Triple H, seeing as he's on the board of directors, and come out and kind of take that introduction over and maybe have Triple H be like slightly disgruntled and then go away. But instead, The Rock just repeated what Triple H repeated, just in a different way. And I had all kinds of problems with this, all kinds. Starting from the beginning, The Rock comes out and he's just immediately clearly in babyface mode, even though every real wrestling fans were loving to hate him. Yeah. His role as a final boss was awesome. He had just come back at Bad Blood, insinuating that his beef with Roman and Cody wasn't over. He's coming down, he's high-fiving fans, he's going over and he's talking to his daughters. And then did you see, like, right at ringside, the Netflix executives and Ari Emanuel and all of the people from TKO? Like, why were they there? Like, those are seats reserved for your top wrestling fans. Why is Ari Emanuel sitting ringside? I hated it. Get out of there, you mark. He had no business being there. And then The Rock comes in and just immediately throws out the entire story. The best, most exciting storyline that everyone was waiting for was just totally dumped. And for some reason, Cody Rhodes is just sitting in the audience. Don't even get me started on that throughout the entire night of the people in the audience for the shots. Look who's here to see the show tonight. Cody Rhodes. Well, yeah, he works there, and he's at almost every TV taping. And The Rock's promo sucked. It was so boring and so bad and just endlessly droning on about Netflix, progressed no storyline, killed off every other storyline. And like you said, that was the first half an hour. So the whole first half an hour that I was excited for, that I ate a steak dinner that my wife made for the show for me to eat while I was watching it. I like to eat and watch. It was a total bust, man. I thought it sucked.
I actually agree with you on pretty much everything there. So the leading with The Rock, smart. I was like, all right, this is going to get the casual or new viewer interested. Rock's a huge star. Great choice to lead with him. There's two ways they could have went about it. Like that Triple H idea and like kind of reigniting that rivalry and having some sort of authority feud there could have been cool. Or eventually, later on in the show, Rock doing something of a heel nature could have been interesting. But just having him cut like a babyface Netflix promo was weird. Even me, the last thing I watched was probably that last WrestleMania. And seeing him come out, kissing baby, shaking hands, just wasn't very interesting. I was expecting something to happen. But what happened felt like a business presentation to me. So I can just imagine how uninterested people would be watching. Imagine watching that and you have like a somewhat young kid that's interested in wrestling. How bored they would have been for the first half hour. That's like watching like an Apple new product demonstration. It's like if you're in that business, it's kind of interesting, but anybody on the outside does not care about that stuff. So I don't know why they had those two promos back to back, both just executive promos, just not even executive promos, executive presentations talking about Netflix. That's what it felt like. And
yeah, well, I think The Rock's doing that really amplified Triple H's for me. Because it was just a continuation of it. It wasn't immersing us into any sort of story. The Rock thinks that and I guess he was in person, but like he's not as over as he thinks he is with the television audience when he puts on bullshit material.
This also tells me that The Rock isn't doing anything.
Is he not working WrestleMania?
I guess not.
Unless and they've done a good job at this. But it seems like a really weird way to do it. Unless this was just this is going to be a total swerve, that they were like, we're going to bring you back, Rock, put you babyface for this night for the new fans. We're going to make everybody think it's a certain way, but this is all just setting up so that you can, make a shocking turn at the Rumble or something like that, being like, I never took my eye off that title or whatever it might be. So I was looking here, I was like, at 8:20, I was like, the only way to recover from this is have The Rock get involved and turn on Roman. And for me, like, it's a linear progression in the show. I had a hard time. I was already negative about everything at that point. And I were 8:29, no matches yet. But they rang the bell prior to a commercial, and then the commercial was just a package. So it was very strange opening. But then they got to Roman versus Solo. And, I didn't hate this match. Like, I liked this match. It was good.
Actually, can we just pause for 1 second?
Sure.
When they did the Rock Cody thing, the one thing going through my mind was like, God, Cody must know he made the right decision, like, for which company to work for, regardless of how that whole opening went. He is on, like, a completely different level than he would have been in AEW. And on, like, WWE is just, like, a completely different level of company. So
he's the biggest star in the world.
I could just imagine in his mind thinking, like, oh, I'm glad I signed this contract and came on board.
100%. But I bet you he was disappointed with what was going on with The Rock, because he probably wants, like, he might not want to have a match with The Rock, maybe, but I know that he doesn't want to disappoint the fans, and that they had led up to that match that entire time. And now that you mentioned Cody, like, and we're talking about the Roman Solo match, please explain to me, like, again, I'm talking about, like, linearly. So Cody was out in the stands, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're at a UFC event and John Jones isn't fighting and he's sitting in the event, like, he stays there and watches the whole show. So Cody was there for just the Rock segment, and then he interrupted, his music played, and he ran out in the very next match. So what, he sat out in the crowd, and then after The Rock was done, he's like, I'm going to go to the back, and then when he was in the back, he decided to interfere in the match? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, why didn't they just have him come over the railing?
Yeah.
Why do they need, they needed the theme music to play? Is that what they needed?
Well, if they did, then don't have him sit in the crowd.
Yeah, that's weird. But yeah, let's talk about the first match. So we're 22 minutes into our podcast. We're already on better pacing than they are. We're getting into the first match now, 22 minutes in.
Well, I thought the match was good. I thought that they kept, like, it was a bit of a slower pace than maybe you would expect, but I think they did that intentionally. Like you said, they're trying to kind of rope in new viewers, so it was kind of like a bit of a slow burn, but a slow burn for an anything goes match. Mm-hmm. I didn't enjoy. I felt like for a bit, to be honest, that there was a bit of like a WrestleMania main event feel with all the interference, everything that was coming in. I believe at first it was Tonga Valoa or whatever one of the guy from the New Bloodline is. And then Sammy and Jimmy came out. I couldn't help but also wonder, like, how jealous Jimmy must be of Jay in real life, considering where they both ended up in terms of their gimmicks. Like, Jimmy is nothing without Roman, and like the whole bloodline disappeared, Jay would still have his gimmick and have that crowd going wild.
Yeah.
But the crowd was really in it. They other than this, like, saying, like, they hit big moves towards the end, and the crowd felt it the entire time. Like, I liked the match. I thought they did a good job with the match. I thought that they told the story well. Overall, and I wasn't super surprised with the finish.
I liked the Michael Cole telling the story when Solo was on his way to the ring. Mm-hmm. That kind of gives, like, me, like, sort of a history lesson on actually what's happened between these two, because I knew there was a feud, but I didn't know to what extent or the details of the feud, and him telling the story actually kind of helped me kind of catch up on this. So I thought he did a great job when Solo was coming to the ring. And also, man, Roman is just like a presence. There is something about him when he comes out. It just felt epic. And I think they did a good job. I don't know if this is also new or not, but the way they did the production around, not announcing them coming to the ring. In the old days, it would be making his way to the ring, weighing in at 200, and, they didn't do that. And they did that when they got into the ring, and they're kind of like face to face, and the camera is almost like a movie shot on them with, like, the ring announcer in the background. You could see both the guys there waiting to fight, and then they're kind of announcing who they are. I love Paul Heyman coming in and taking over. Again, because I thought the ring announcer, I forget her name, but Nerbs could have gotten to her. Imagine if she would have like messed up somebody's name.
She's new. She's new. She replaced Samantha Irvin. Samantha Irvin quit to start a music career.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's probably nerve-wracking for her. Like, one of her first new gigs is this Netflix Raw introduction. So,
Yeah.
and they're starting off with, like, a huge match.
Can I ask you a serious question?
Yeah.
Okay. How much longer does Paul Heyman have to live? Because he is growing at an epic clip. He is a fat man. And it's actually like, I thought maybe like in the time that he took off, he was off from whatever it was, like just before, not just before SummerSlam, I think it was maybe June to November. Mm-hmm. He appears to have like put on weight. I'm just like, I don't understand how someone in a position like that can continue to carry on. Like, I genuinely, like he's like Paul Bearer. Like one of these can be like, I don't know how many years are left before he just suddenly passes away. Like he's obese. Kind of takes away from the story that he's that big.
I don't think it impacts the story at all. I think that's a stretch. But
I'm thinking about it. I'm just like, how is this guy involved at this weight?
I hope he can get that in check, because I don't want to hear in like a year from now, you know, we're sad to announce the passing of Paul Heyman, and then
not one maybe, but in 10.
Yeah, I really hope that doesn't happen. How old is Paul Heyman? I don't know. He's
60?
60, yeah. He should really be starting to take care of himself. He has the money to do so, and he has the people around him to get tips from, to, you know, find a good personal trainer, a nutritionist. Like he's in the perfect spot to get all those things. You just ask.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought it was a good match. So like looking at the first hour, the first half hour was awful. I liked the match. It was kind of weird with the ring and everything like that being all the UFC, and it took some getting used to the way that they were producing it with the various shots, but it's so much better than it used to be, the way that they shoot the actual match itself.
Yeah.
So overall, like I liked it. Felt a little AEW-ish with the interference and the fight-offs and like the distraction from the actual match itself, when like the two main stars aren't fighting for like, kind of like minutes at a time. It's just like, what's going on? More of like a play vibe, but I mean, it's all good. Then after that, I've got a couple of notes, like 904, very like strange content filler, more drone shots, breaks with nothing. Why are the wrestlers in the stands with the fans? So much wasted time. Usually if there's a wrestler in the stands, they get involved like Goldberg did at Bad Blood a couple months ago. It's odd to position it like the wrestlers are there to watch the show. Like that's not something that they've ever done.
Yeah, they work there and they get their matches. They don't just watch shows.
If you're not on the UFC card, then you don't go and show up backstage, you know? So is that what they're going for? This is a pre-announced card every week, and if you're not on the card, then you're not there. But they hardly do any wrestling. There was 4 matches in 3 hours.
Yeah, that was tough.
So there was nobody on the
3
card.
3 hours, or was it 2.5 hours?
It was 3. It was 3 full hours.
I think because they must have removed some ad breaks or something. So I think on Netflix now, if you go to watch it non-live, it's 2.5.
I thought that it was 3 hours, but maybe I'm wrong. But I was up till like 11. Then Cena came out. I mean,
hold on. I still want to talk a little bit about Roman and Solo.
Okay, yeah.
So I felt a couple of things. I felt in the match, Solo was actually booked pretty strong. Considering Roman's such a force, he had like the upper hand a lot of the match. So I guess it helps him make him look strong, but I also felt it made Roman look a bit weak at times, and then the interference started happening. I will say this is my first time seeing Jacob Fatu.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's impressive and terrifying. So I am like, that was a cool introduction to him. And I thought like he seemed to be pretty over with the fans. And I'm kind of excited to see more of him as well in the future.
I couldn't agree more. He's a big future star in my mind. Like one of the ones they really need to build, and I don't see that in the rest of the bloodline at all. I think he's better than Solo, and he's like right behind Roman in potential.
Yeah, for sure. So Roman wins the match. I think that's a good call. Again, man, he's a star, superstar. Just the way he is now. The way he comes across, so much more natural than when I tuned in a few years ago and saw him wearing the vest and trying to be a baby face and doing
Well, when Vince was cramming him down our throat as a baby face, not allowing him to evolve into one organically.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but then after the match, who came out?
The Rock.
The Rock again, more of his baby face of hugs and kisses But I kept noticing they kept referring to The Rock as like the High Chief. Are they trying to insinuate that he's like one of the elders now? Like, it's just they did such a good job telling the story of Solo and Roman that they did a terrible job of explaining The Rock's involvement. And again, like I hated when he came out. It really like soured the ending of the match. And I think everyone was waiting for him to turn.
Yeah, when he was holding the ropes for a long time, at that point I was like, this is when it's going to happen. And then it didn't, and they just walked to the back. I was underwhelmed, I guess.
Maybe
what was the point of that?
Maybe it was just the whole thing could have been summed up in like the worst Rock appearance I've ever seen. Like it turned me from all of it. It turned me from like being really, really excited about The Rock, anything that The Rock's involved with, the potential matches he could have at WrestleMania, wanting to watch any show that he's on because of his potential involvement, into like hating The Rock. Like to be clear, like I liked to dislike him, like in a wrestling style. Like I enjoyed his work as a heel. Now I feel like I'm just giving him go away heat. I'm just like, I'm not interested in your bullshit fakeness. Coming out, kissing everybody's rings and talking about endless this corporate bullshit. Like if you're not going to be a wrestling character, then get off the show.
Yeah, we don't need more of that. It was boring. Speaking of boring, I think up next there were some ads for the WWE shop. Then there was an in-arena interview with the New Day.
The New Day,
which was boring heel work in my opinion.
They're trying to be dumb. Like they're not even getting interrupted with the loudest boos, and they're just stopping to make it seem like they are. Don't get me wrong. I'm really into the New Day turn. I think they've got a lot of potential, but I don't understand what they're doing with these promos where they come out and they don't say anything, and they just keep stopping as if the crowd is booing them so loudly that they can't talk. But if you listen to one of those segments next to a Dom segment, Dom is really getting that heat. Like they're at like 50% of that, and that's just not enough to just go out and cut a promo and about nothing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wasn't engaged in that at all. And if I could have fast forwarded it, I would have. But because we're doing this, I didn't. If we weren't doing this, the next time they came up, I certainly would have fast forwarded it as well.
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, if we're being candid, what I watch these days is pretty much, and I might strike The Rock from that list. I'm talking about Roman, Cody, Punk. If he ever comes back, Brock, and Rock. There are a lot of good stars, and we can go over that. And that's one of the things I want to talk about later. Like, who are the remaining heels in this company? Because Cody's a face, Roman's a face, Rock is a face, Punk is a face, Randy is a face. So it's like Gunther, who I think they're actually like turning face. And then there's Kevin Owens, and then maybe they're turning Rollins heel. It's very strange. So I don't know if there's about to be a bunch of heel turns, but we have all kinds of baby faces and very few heels at the moment.
Yeah, that's kind of
I guess Cena's a face as he's coming back.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of Cena, when he came back, he was wearing, it looked like knee pads. So I was like, oh, wow, a Cena match is going to happen. That's kind of cool. He must have worked a dark match after Raw or something.
Maybe he was just in his gear, and in case like they changed, thought that we're going to do a bump or something. Maybe they had a segment planned and scratched it.
Yeah, so I was totally expecting a Cena match. He had his wrestling attire, his gear on, knee pads. You know, if he came out with just the jorts and no knee pads, I could have passed it. But the whole time, the entire segment, I was like, all right, after he's done talking, I guess they're just going to bring somebody out, ring the bell. What's going on here? But then he went to the back.
He's so over. It's like I think
People realize,
he was more over in that segment throughout the entire thing than The Rock had become by the end of his. The Rock got a bigger pop, but Cena was more over consistently.
Yeah, and I like Cena's promo and stuff, and you know, the way he kind of announced his Royal Rumble entrance. And at this point, we're also, note this, we're an hour and 20 minutes into the show, and there's only been one match.
This is not a finger for Roman. One match.
One match. That is wild. Is this normally how Raw is, or is this Netflix?
No, I think it's Netflix. That's how PLEs can be because they have long matches. But usually on Raw, there's like the fillers that are in there. So it was strange, you know. Like you might have like say like for Survivor Series, like the women's War Games took up the first hour, or for the Royal Rumble, the women's Royal Rumble will take up the first hour. So that would be like one match. But there wouldn't be 30 minutes prior to that of stuff going on. But like, you know what the thing with Cena is, and I don't know if you experienced this, but like I liked Cena a lot when he first came up, when he was the heel, the rapper, and then they just kind of turned him into a modern day Hulk Hogan when they got rid of the Attitude Era, and every like the Attitude Era fans really rejected him while everybody else loved him. He was super over. Like it was a love-hate. Either you booed the shit out of him or you cheered him so hard. And now he's like grown, like just because maybe it's because he's a legend, I don't know, but he's grown on me so much, and like I'm all about this final year. And he's not as he's just so over. He's so good on the mic. And yeah. I just like I like him. I'll watch anything that he's in, not as an actor, as a wrestler. Okay, I don't watch a lot of Cena's acting projects, but he's just great. I loved his promo. I love this. At first, I hated the self-deprecation. I wrote, "Why is he self-deprecating?" But he came back from it. He broke himself down to build himself up, build hype into the Rumble, and now like I'm starting to wonder like, is he gonna win?
That I wouldn't hate it, honestly. I think it could be cool. The Rumble is gonna be cool. There's so many different options they could go. I'm happy with Cena. I think that people like Cena because of a few things, because he seems like genuinely a good person. You know, you see interviews with them, and you know also he's gonna keep his word. I think he's the one wrestler in the history of wrestling that's going to retire and retire.
Can I say something though? I have an idea of what I think they might do with that. I think he's going to retire too, but I think this is all basically built up. It's Cena's final year. Okay, so I think what's going to happen is right towards the end of it, after say like Survivor Series, they'll be set up and be like John Cena's final match or whatever. And then they're going to cut an angle where it's like someone like Drew McIntyre just obliterates him. So he like can't make it to his final match. And then the heat's going to be like Drew McIntyre ended Cena's career, couldn't have his final match. And it's going to drag on for months. And then Cena will come back again for his true final match, which will be at next WrestleMania. Where he'll be like, I wasn't planning on doing it, but I have to do it. I'm going to stop. And then everyone will go batshit, and that'll be a headline one of the two nights that they have. And I feel like that was maybe agreed to in advance to this whole 1 year, that it was never really a year, that it's just like, we're going to do that and then get you out on a last WrestleMania, especially considering the payday he would get for it.
Maybe. I hope so. That would be something cool to see. And a very interesting way to go out. But when it is finally his time, so whether that's the end of the year or at WrestleMania next year. I think he's one to keep his word. That's it. That he won't wrestle. He'll come back for segments. He'll take bumps, do things here and there, maybe interfere, that kind of thing once in a while. once in a while, but I think in terms of wrestling career and actual matches, that'll definitely be it.
I agree. I think he's a class act. I think he's the total opposite of The Rock in real life.
Do you hope he gets a championship run?
No. I know. I was listening to. I want to be clear. It's not an original thought. I was listening to Cornette talk about this the other day, and the idea that he could get one is enough. You don't need to actually move forward with it. Like him beating Gunther and him beating Cody. What does that do? And I don't think John wants one either.
Yeah.
I think that he could build himself up and get all the way there, and then salute to the champion, puts them over enough that he doesn't need to do that. But I tell you, I don't see him losing at all headed into WrestleMania. I think he's going to have to win a couple high-profile matches. If he doesn't win the Rumble, he'll win a couple of things.
Even though he's on a losing streak, and he said that.
I think that's gonna end. Like, who's gonna beat John Cena before WrestleMania?
What if they run with the losing streak storyline and he plays continuously
becomes a jobber in his final year, just puts over everybody, just like constantly out of breath? Yeah. No, they can't do that. No. I don't think he would agree to do that. I think he would do whatever is best for the company, but yeah.
He also probably does want to put people over, I'd imagine. He probably wants to help build people up. But time will tell. We'll see with Cena. I'm excited for Cena, though. I think this final year will be kind of one of the interesting parts to watch.
Me too. But can I give you another example kind of why I thought Raw sucked? There was nothing wrong with Cena's appearance, but it doesn't need to be every segment, but you expect somebody to interrupt Triple H or somebody to interrupt The Rock or somebody to interrupt Cena. So if you have 3 promos that are going on like that, then like one of them should maybe get interrupted. There wasn't anyone that could have come out and taken an FU, or if The Rock's going to be babyface, there's no one that could have come out and taken a people's elbow. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's too...
Well, I think it's because they fired Jinder Mahal. They don't have anybody now. And
everybody maybe.
Else is a babyface, so...
but I just like it's just that added to like the lack of a threaded story, just kind of segment. It didn't feel like Raw at all.
Interesting. So I don't know what Raw feels like anymore. I didn't watch any of the previous ones, so it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight, because today is Monday as we record this.
I wouldn't even consider watching after what happened last week. I don't want to give them the satisfaction of an additional number.
So you're not going to watch Raw tonight?
I'll check. Are they advertising Punk? Punk is the only thing that could get me to watch. If Punk is going to appear, Damian Priest versus Finn Balor in a street fight. Yeah, see, here's the thing. Punk is going to be there. So what I'll probably do is wait until tomorrow and then watch Punk's appearance, because there'll be something cool with him and Rollins, and I feel like that'll probably be the only good part of the show. Can we also just stop for a second, even think about this week, and talk about everyone that wasn't on Raw? Okay, so the Intercontinental Champion and the World Heavyweight Champion, the 2 big titles from Raw, Gunther and Braun. Gunther was nowhere to be seen. He was on the red carpet at the beginning. That was it.
I think they did a promo video for him or something, right?
And sure, a promo video.
Yeah, I know.
And Braun Breaker was in the audience.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, those are the 2 biggest, most exciting. Like, I'd add Jacob Fatu into that list. Those are the guys that I am interested in. They weren't even on here. They could have even just had squash matches. Like, those guys are awesome.
Yeah. Every match was like a 20-minute match on that show. I kind of wish there was some squash matches, because I think that would have been exciting to see versus the Rock promo or the Triple H promo. Man, you could have cut the Rock promo completely. And I think the show would have been fine had like 2 squash matches fill that space.
Or they could have stopped showing all the audience constantly, or constantly telling us that there is in the Intuit Dome, and it was just like,
Why were they doing that? Was that like there's something going on? They need to get things ready? Because it's not like, certain events where they're changing mats to change sponsors for certain matches or whatever. Like there was nothing change. I don't realize. I don't know why there was such a big pause between matches.
I think they're just trying to produce extremely cheap content, and they're just taking for granted that people are going to stick with it. Like, I'm a very big fan, we'll see, a very big fan of what Triple H was doing. I'm willing to deal with the in-between filler stuff, but the in-between filler stuff is at least segments in the ring. Chad Gable, whoever is coming out, and they're having matches. But, or at least a promo or like whatever, but to just constantly be showing the crowd, like it couldn't have been more boring. Like I was shocked that's what they were doing.
They're going to realize this because Netflix isn't, a cable company. They have data on when people are fast forwarding, what parts of the shows they're watching. That data is going to get reported back to WWE, and Netflix is probably going to tell them, hey, you really should stop these arena shots, or you should stop these talking segments. People aren't really tuning in for that. They're fast forwarding. I hope that they can guide them in helping make better content decisions. I think that
we'll have to see what happens tonight. Like I will fast forward to get to the Punk stuff, but in doing so you'll at least get kind of a vibe for it. I'm really hopeful that they'll go back to the old school vibe of just kind of it being like, this is the story. Usually the main event portion kind of dominates it. If it's a 3-hour show, maybe it's one main event story threaded for each hour, type of thing. So anyway, then we were at Rhea versus Liv Morgan.
I actually thought this was a really good match.
Yeah, Rhea's matches always are.
Yeah, this is my first time seeing her.
Really?
Again,
this wasn't even one of her better matches, to be honest. Like I thought it was one of her worst matches, but she's always got really good matches. I don't think Liv Morgan's very good in the ring. I think she's a great character.
Right. Yeah.
But I liked it. I love that they put the belt back on her, especially on this event. They had to do something big. Rhea is the Roman of the women's division. Remember, she gave up her belt due to injury.
Right. Yeah.
What was that in? Before, was it? No, right after WrestleMania last year. She beat Becky Lynch. I thought they put on a good match. I loved afterwards, too. Dom getting in the ring. Rhea putting him in a spot. Yeah, kick to the balls and the riptide.
Yeah.
Well, you'd think that they'd have it seems like a no-brainer business decision. Liv just lost a title. They should have a rematch at the Royal Rumble. Surely some sort of stipulation, somehow Dom is involved. I would imagine Rhea's going to retain, and then that feud would be squashed, and they can go separate directions into Mania. Dom in a what? On a pole?
On a pole.
Well, didn't they do him in a shark cage already?
Yeah, I think I remember something about that.
Yeah. But, I liked it. Overall, again, I really like Rhea. I liked the ending too when she caught her and did the big smile, and it was just kind of over. She hit her with 2 riptides, I believe, as well, just for good measure. Yeah, she's great. She's over, and I'm not the biggest fan of women's wrestling because I feel like they push not the actual I'm not a fan of some of the characters they develop. They're pushing people in that are way too green, like Nia Jax, but I like Liv Morgan. Her character's super over. I think Rhea is really, really good. And I'm excited to see what they do with Rhea next. I'm wondering if Charlotte's going to come back and win the Rumble. That would be a great match to see the two of them. I'm not sure if they've fought before. Maybe they have. Again, I don't closely follow the women's division.
Match is over. Again, great match. I have no critiques on it. I was thoroughly entertained with that. But why the Undertaker came out at the end and ignored Rhea and then rode around the ring.
Really weird.
Why? I mean, I know they're trying to get they squeeze the legends in, and they picked that segment, and maybe it's cool for Rhea. Maybe she's like, oh wow, I get to do something with the Undertaker. That's cool, but I felt it took away from Rhea. I don't think she needs
100%.
it. That's a crutch that she does not need.
If anything, why didn't they do something like where she was getting screwed by Dom again, and then the Undertaker disappeared in the ring and saved her, and then raised her hand or whatever. And the coming out to the American Badass, like I know that he doesn't want to get dressed up for his gimmick, but I mean, this badass thing sucks, dude. Just stop it. And he looked old too.
Yeah.
I did not like that. I would just rather they didn't do it.
Didn't do it, or had it in like too much interference from Liv's side, and then introduce him as like sort of an enforcer on Rhea's side.
I guess, but they had all these legends. Where's Stone Cold? They have to be saving him for Mania. If he doesn't appear at Mania, I'm going to start to think that there's a rift between him and Triple H.
He's busy. He's got a racing career now. He's racing in the desert.
Don't give me that. He's Stone Cold Steve Austin. I just got a T-shirt of him for my birthday. I expect to see him on my wrestling show in at least once every 3 years.
He doesn't leave Nevada. He's not going to travel for wrestling. He's too busy. If you follow him on Instagram, too busy racing and playing with his cats, which is hilarious.
I thought maybe it was a 316 Raw this year, but it's not. It's on a Sunday.
I wish. I love seeing him, man. It's a treat anytime Austin comes back. But I don't know if there's a rift or if he just isn't that interested in it. Maybe he's just enjoying keeping a low profile, to be honest.
Well, we'll see. Everything's kind of been shattered for me because I just assumed it was a given that they'd bring him out this year to be the one that stopped the final boss. But if there's no final boss, there's no real reason to bring Stone Cold, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
One of the bonuses that I felt though was like, even though I hated the crowd shots and the filler, there was less garbage backstage segments that they usually have. Like Raw's really become filled with just like terrible backstage segments, like just horrible acting. Like it could even just be like somebody eating a Snickers bar commercial, or just absolute like nonsense. Which I saw that they had like removed all of that, but they clearly had no better ideas of what to do to fill it up with. But I was happy that it was gone.
Yeah.
Overall.
Fair enough. Maybe they don't do sponsorships like that anymore because they're on Netflix. I guess we'll also see if they're allowed to do any sort of external sponsorships.
So, I mean, after that, we had, I believe it was Jay versus... Well, actually, there was some stuff in between. I got a couple of notes here. The audio is off on the Chad Gable, Adam Pearce part. And before that, more long periods of nothing. There was
and Cole and Pat were talking or advertising stuff. They kept cutting out as well.
Yeah. And then also someone interrupted The Miz, and I just wrote, who is interrupting The Miz? Like, I don't even know who this person is. And then did you see the segment The Rock posted on Instagram, and then they put it up of everybody backstage?
Yeah.
And then like Triple H went to go give him the handshake, but The Rock didn't see, so he just completely left him hanging. And I was just like, I wanted to cling to the idea that was like put in there, but yeah, but I don't know. More celebrity shots the third time, and then I don't know. I'm sure you've heard of Travis Scott. I personally have not.
I don't know. I'm out of the loop. I have not heard of him, to be honest.
He had no enthusiasm at all. I thought it was really weird that he was smoking in the joint. But I mean, my God, Jey Uso's entrance has got to be the most over entrance in all of wrestling today.
That was my first time seeing it. That I didn't like. So I remember obviously the Usos as a tag team. I remember Jimmy and Jay in the original Bloodline. I didn't know Jay went out on his own and has this like entrance now, but it was
main
cool.
Event Jey Uso.
Like it was like there's a lot of energy. The crowd was super into it. I thought it was hilarious how Michael Cole was on the announce table, and he looked ridiculous, but it was super funny. Him and like Pat, oh my gosh,
McAfee.
McAfee. Sorry, Pat McAfee, who was awesome. I love their chemistry together. I think they're a great team.
He's okay. They're okay.
I don't know, I like them. I think they're fun. I think
They're no JR and the King. Let's just put it that way.
I think JR and the King are a little overrated if you go back and I don't know, watch. I don't know. It was just a different time.
You better watch your mouth when you're talking to me. I do not think JR and the King are overrated. The King might not have aged well with his creepiness towards women. But anyway, let's not get into that. I hear what you're saying. They are definitely an okay announce team. Or good.
Jey Uso, awesome entrance. Love the energy. And then we get Drew's entrance. It's good. I don't know. I haven't followed Drew that much. I saw him.
Drew is one of the best they have right now. He's in the top of my list. Ever since Vince left and Triple H has been allowing him to kind of do his own stuff, kind of like in the Attitude Era, he's been cutting amazing promos, and they've been really helping with his character. His feud with Punk elevated him so much. He's a really big star in my eyes. I'd put him with Gunther and Braun in terms, and Jacob Fatu in terms of people I want to see that aren't like, A-list box office stars.
Fair enough. So they have a heel problem where they don't have like a ton of heels, right?
Yes, he's off that list. He would be on that list. I didn't have him there.
I didn't love that he lost this match. At this point in the night, this is our third match, and it's all like, babyface wins. Mm-hmm. And then we get to the last match as well.
Well, this match kind of sucked. The audience felt like they were out of it too after the entrance. It was one of the biggest excitements to kind of deadness I've seen. They didn't have any chemistry, it felt. And Jey Uso isn't a particularly good in-ring performer, I find.
That's fair enough. I felt the same thing. Like I felt like the wind had been taken out of the fan sales. They weren't into it as much, and it's probably because I don't know what point of the show we're at now. Probably over the 2-hour mark, third match. And it's a long one as well. This was a long match. Didn't need to be that long, I don't think. And we're
at 2 hours, 10:01.
Yeah, I didn't like.
I have here, McAfee and Cole are. I forgot about this, so I stand by what I said originally. McAfee and Cole are awful. What's going on here? They didn't used to be. Want to stop watching at 10:01.
That was before the match started. You're seeing.
I think it was right around when the match did start.
Jay's entrance, and they're like dancing on the table, and Travis Scott is awkwardly trying to get into the announce table and put on a headset like he's going to do commentary. I don't know if he's capable of doing commentary. I'm glad that the headset didn't work.
I'm glad that he didn't.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't let him. I said Jay is super over. I hope McIntyre kills him, though. He better not lose.
But he lost.
McIntyre looks like a giant next to Jay.
I don't know why he didn't. Why they didn't push him over? They need more heels. They need more heels contenders, and they need to build Drew up so he can be a challenger for.
And Jay also kicked out of his finisher, the Claymore. I didn't understand that either. I don't know what they were doing with this.
Why? It's like they had that old mentality of like maybe a house show mentality of having like all the baby faces win for some reason, which.
And it was clean, though. There was no out. Like, Jey Uso is not as good as Drew McIntyre. Supposedly. That's what, like, it seems very unbelievable. So, it'd be like a huge upset, if that's what they're going to go with.
And if you're new to this is your first time watching wrestling, or you haven't watched in a long time, you don't see Drew as any sort of threat to anyone anymore. You're like, oh, this big guy loses.
It didn't help his character.
It didn't help introduce him to the Netflix market. I think Jay would have been fine taking a loss from Drew here. He's huge. And it could have been like, there could have been some shifty dynamics that helped Drew win. And I think it would have just done more to bring the crowd back into the show. Having somebody they could boo and hate and try and get away. But yeah, at this point, it's just weird, J1. And I wasn't invested in this match at all. I did fast forward a little bit here, to be honest. And
it was a momentum killer for sure, which is odd because it's one of their top heels who's red hot right now. I'd say the top heel, to be honest, because like we said, a lot of people are a face. Like I think he's more over right now than Gunther is, and Jay's really got this entrance down. But yeah, man, this thing fell flat. I don't know what they talked about backstage, but I'm going to guess a lot of it kind of fell on Jay. But also the booking, it just was a very strange ending. And then I had a couple things after that, like more celebrities left to brush teeth. Clearly have nothing to miss here. Just endless celebrity. They weren't even real celebrities. And no Braun Breaker again. I had question mark. He was shown in the crowd. Again, more of the same thing. I'm repeating myself because it kept happening so much.
Yeah, and there were more segments after as well, right? Like Rhea won. Rhea had another segment. I can't remember what it was. But
backstage.
I
must have missed that.
She won the match. Just leave it at that. The New Day came back and did another segment. Thought that was boring. They promoted the Priest versus Finn Balor fight for the next week, which was fine. I'd have no problem with them like promoting next week's fights. The only problem I have is them promoting the same events constantly. Talking about the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, like it.
I know, that's so annoying.
It's like, come on, who cares? Honestly,
why are they promoting that to us? Like, it's a strange thing to promote. Speaking of strange things to promote, nothing was stranger than Hulk Hogan promoting the Real American Beer, which they came out with next, which I actually thought was the best and most interesting part of the show.
I don't.
He looks like he's 110. He can barely move.
How did they not know he was going to get booze?
I was thinking about this. I was wondering if this went above Triple H. Like, is it possible that because Hogan worked the Republican rallies for Trump and Dana White loves Trump so much that Trump did a favor for Hogan by pulling a string with Dana White, and Dana told TKO bosses that Hogan has to be on, and Triple H just said, okay. Does that all make sense?
It makes sense.
Because I had that thought.
Honestly, it makes sense. It's because I don't think there's any logical reason they would do it otherwise. I mean, he came back at WrestleMania a couple of years ago in Florida, his home state, and got booed. So bringing him back in LA, and you think he's going to be over? You think people are going to be excited to see him in LA? I don't know what was going through their minds.
His downfall has been significant. I'm surprised they keep putting him on TV. When you think about it, the two biggest stars of the 80s, Hogan and Flair, have become... It's really, like, sad to see what's happened to the two of them. It's like, you wonder, it's like, will The Rock and Stone Cold be like this in 30 years, 25 years? Like, I certainly hope not and don't think so. But it's very, very strange to see how much they've fallen. And how kind of like, I don't want to say the wrong term, but they just seem like really kind of like shitty people.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Honestly, I think everything about that segment sucked. I think people saw right through it. So we could probably move on.
It did, but no, I just want to say that it was awesome. In the sense that I was like, does he think he's being cheered? Overall, like, he could barely move. Like, he like the flab on his arm as well. He was wearing the half shirt. Like, just from a purely, like, interesting people watching perspective, it was the weirdest part of the show. And also a very weird collaboration. Again, where was Stone Cold? And he's got a beer. Like, what's going on? Is there some sort of fight? Like, and all of a sudden, who's going to buy the Real American Beer? A Hulk Hogan beer? That doesn't even make any sense. Yeah. He's never once drank beer. His character doesn't drink beer.
It's a cash grab. I mean, he's like he's a shill now. That's what I look at him as. He's just trying to make a buck, sell things, and uh, yeah.
And he also promoted Saturday night's main event in one of the commercials. I'm surely he's not going to be there now.
Yeah. Okay, and you know what? This is coming from. I used to love Hogan. I had his action figures, his like posters or whatever. I used to play him in video games and stuff as a kid, but I don't know. I have no interest in the guy anymore. And
No, same. He's off my Mount Rushmore, to be honest. The more that he keeps coming out, the more I realize how little I actually enjoyed his previous work.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think we all were just captured from the age of 4 to 12, let's say.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I had a couple other notes. Like they said, Logan Paul was going to be there. He wasn't. It was just a video package. I said every match advertised for next week looks awful. It's part of why I had no interest in watching. Once again, Punk is the only one that would draw me into watching.
I'm a little interested in the surprise opponent for Chad Gable. I think it might be Penta.
Who's Penta?
He's a luchador from AEW. It's either him or his brother Ray Phoenix. And I know you hate AEW.
But did they get signed?
There's rumors.
Oh, that's a mystery we don't know. Okay,
that's a mystery we don't know. But they were actually really interesting characters. And when AEW was at their peak, back when like Daniel Bryan debuted and stuff, they had a really good match with another team you don't like, and I actually don't like them that much either. The Young Bucks. But
I hate the Young Bucks.
But Ray Phoenix is probably one of the best luchadors in the world. Like the things that guy can do are insane.
Well, if you want to review it, I'll watch it.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see that match. Penta is not like a super high flyer or anything, but his character is so interesting, and his presence is interesting. I think he can bring something to the show. Obviously, I don't think his English is going to be that good, so I don't see him cutting promos or main eventing things. But I think he'll be an interesting addition to the show. And I want to kind of see if he is the surprise opponent for Chad Gable. So I'm probably going to tune in for that reason.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to be fast forwarding to get to Punk's segment. So when that's prior to that segment, then I'll stop and see what happens.
I'll be interested to see what you think of a wrestler that you've never seen before. To see if
I usually give everybody a fair shake, and it's usually not the wrestler's fault. It's usually the booking. Bad booking is hard to overcome.
Yeah, fair enough. So I guess we're on to the last match, right? CM Punk?
Yeah, the main event.
All right.
Did you notice how long Rollins' entrance took?
I have a comment on here. Where is it? Why are the entrances so long? Why is
They're trying to extend the show by there was 2 breaks during the entrance.
I know. And they turned his music down at one point and then turned it back on, I think.
For people to do the whoa.
Well, and I think there was like an ad break, and it might have been playing in arena as well for the fans in the audience. So the music goes down, ad break comes on, then ad break goes off, music comes back up. So those kind of weird things on the show are, I don't know. Could you not just have like a bottom of the screen banner run across and advertise whatever you're, trying to sell? And then
they must be testing
entrances.
it.
Yeah.
They're optimizing it to see what works the best, I would assume. And then I noticed that Michael Cole, and I don't know what it was, I didn't write it down, but Michael Cole used his real name, alluding to the fact that Seth Rollins isn't his real name, to describe what he was like. And I don't get that. Why would you do that? It's one thing if another wrestler does that in a promo, making it seem like it's all a shoot. But to just have Michael Cole be like, oh, yeah, I can't remember what his real name was, but Seth Rollins, actually his real name is Trent Brown from Mississippi or whatever. I'm making all that up. Again, just another element that just immediately took me out of it. It's just I would prefer to think of him as the character you've been presenting him as.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. You're not watching a movie, and then they go to the actor's name in the movie. Uh, it's just a weird thing to do, and
Hmm.
there's no point to it. Like you could have said the same thing and used Seth Rollins. Nobody, I would say 99% of the people don't know his real name. What's the point of bringing it up now?
Mm. I know. I agree. Um,
And then when Punk came out, I didn't think he got a huge pop. Um, like I was expecting Punk
it
come
was
out.
late in the show.
Yeah,
Maybe they were tired out.
I guess so. Did you get the same feeling that it just wasn't as? I was expecting something huge, like Punk comes
I think
out.
I had blinders on because I like Punk so much. So I just assumed that it was a really big pop. I didn't have anything written down about him not having a big pop.
And in terms of his theme is iconic, the Living Color one.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. This is just a thought. Like maybe he should change things up because I feel like it's a bit flat now. Like people's themes generally have like a lot of energy behind them. I don't feel like the Living Color one has a lot of energy behind it anymore.
Oh, I think you're wrong. I
You
think you
think
haven't
I'm
seen
wrong?
enough of it. He's super over, and his entrance is huge. He usually gets a really big pop, and he doesn't usually come out this late in the show. I think that the crowd was maybe just a little bit deader by that point. If you didn't think it was that big of a pop, um, and they were just kind of ready for this show to be over. Um, so that this was the fourth match. I mean, overall, I felt again I had like there's no urgency here. This was a good match, but a slower progressing match. I thought that there was a couple of spots that they missed. Really weak pedigree on the table. Punk completely missed the curb stomp on Seth, and I thought a couple of the GTSs didn't look very good. And then I also noticed like I hated the ending too, the superplex that Punk Rollins gave Punk a superplex off the top rope, and then he just immediately gets up. It just I was not impressed with this.
It's also the stuff that Punk kind of preaches against, it seems, but he was doing it. Like those high spots where you just get up right away. Like that's something that seems um, anti-Punk, but he did it, which is
Well,
weird.
maybe that's just a concession he had to make with to work with Seth.
I
Um,
felt so when those GTSs from Rollins to Punk. Personally, I thought they looked a little stiff.
no,
Like
I thought he delivered them better than Punk did.
it looked like it actually could have hurt Punk. Like his head bounced off the knee, and like your brain's hitting your skull inside there. I feel like that. Um, I wonder if that really did kind of hurt him or do a little damage to him. There's been issues with Rollins in the past,
Hmm.
and I feel like that would have pissed Punk off. Um,
Well, I wrote, is Punk hurt?
yeah.
Like it kind of looked like he might have been. I was worried about it, or that was just a really good way of telling the story. And then Punk goes over clean too. So it's like Punk clearly has Triple H's backing, and he must be going to get into a really good spot. Like if it's not tonight, I thought it would be on this Raw, but if it's not tonight, the day that we're recording this on January 13th, that Rollins issues a serious beatdown from a heel like behind with a foreign object, it's got to be coming at least at the Rumble. Like Rollins needs to turn unless they're just going to go in a completely different direction, and I just don't know what they're doing anymore these days. But I would assume that they're headed that way, considering all the faces that they have lined up.
Do you think they're going to go Rollins Punk again? Do you think they need that?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it at WrestleMania. I think they got a lot of time. They got several big shows. They've got the Rumble coming up. They could do it there, or they might put them both in the Rumble. Maybe Seth costs Punk the Rumble, and then they're both in the Elimination Chamber. Um, Maybe they load them up again as Saturday night's main event. Don't forget, like there's a lot of different
Yeah.
opportunities and shots, but I have a feeling, especially if there's no Rock at WrestleMania, I think Punk will be in a very big match. So there's like rumblings of Cody and Cena. Could be Punk and Roman that they're leading to
Yeah,
as
provided
well.
Punk doesn't get injured. Yeah, it's
God, I hope not.
yeah,
If he does, I'm not interested in anything that they do. Everybody else is nice to see, but like it's really only Punk and Roman that are drawing me in, with the exception of like Rock and Brock. But those guys are never around.
yeah. That's
So overall, like looking at this show, I did not like it for the reasons, mostly for the not for the wrestling, but for just the overall presentation, the Netflix butt kissing, the length of the show, the crowd shots. It was a massive, massive letdown for me. And I'm willing to just chalk it up as a one off. Both The Rock's ridiculousness, too. Like, I would be happy to just have them just pretend like that never happened and carry on. And regardless of who's on the show, I just hope to see it go back to a more traditional format of kind of chaotic Monday nights and stories being woven in between and some people getting involved in each other's matches and cool stuff happening backstage that affects what happens later in the show and all that stuff. So I'm just hoping this was a one-off big presentation for the debut on Netflix because they're expecting a huge crowd. And I'm going to imagine they're going to have a third of the audience size tonight.
Yep.
On January 13th.
That's fair. I did enjoy the show, to be honest, but maybe that's because I haven't watched in a while, and I had the luxury of fast forwarding that you didn't have that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
They need to do less promos. They need to promote their own stuff less. I mean, we know we can buy a T-shirt from the WWE shop. If you really want to sell someone's T-shirt, banner at the bottom of the page while the match is going on or something. You know, something non-intrusive. You don't need a 2-minute ad talking about T-shirts and where to buy them.
You know what? It was funny. I just watched the first In Your House on the WWE Vault on Netflix, and there's literally a segment with an announcer. I don't even remember who he was. It might have been Todd Pettingale out in the crowd with Bret Hart's new shirt, promoting it with a phone number at the bottom that you could call to order the shirt. And then they were trying to get crowd shots of people wearing the shirt, but other fans were like getting in the way. And then it like cut back to Vince, and he was like, "Oh yes, Todd, that is a wonderful T-shirt. I'm sure everybody will be calling to order that." And then they just like kept going. It's just so interesting to see how the ads has evolved from that chaos to this like so much more like structured and commercialized and organized now.
Yeah, it's interesting.
To be honest, I enjoyed the original In Your House more than I did Raw.
Probably
because
a nostalgia aspect to that, but I get
Yeah.
where you're coming from.
It was just the build-up that was... they made it seem like it was going to be like WrestleMania, and I just felt like I got a 3-hour Sunday Night Heat with really good matches at once an hour.
Yeah. I can see that. They need... and all the matches were like the same length, it felt. They were all like a 20-minute match.
Mm-hmm.
We need more, quick squash matches in there to introduce characters. We need less pointless talking segments, less promos of their own things. And I wonder if they'll learn. I wonder if tonight will be any different. It'll be interesting to see the changes they make from the first night to this night. I think they got off a bit on the wrong foot for maybe people brand new to this. People that have been watching wrestling forever and continue to watch are still going to watch tonight.
You're making me want to watch, but I'm more. I'm more interested in the formatting than I am the content, if that makes sense. Minus Punk. Any Punk content is gold.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well,
right.
we've been going here almost 120. Do you have any final thoughts on the show? I'm giving it 2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs down. I'm gonna give it a half a thumb up.
Half a thumb up. Okay, there we go. Half a thumb up and 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, so we'll see you next time. I tell you what, though, I am excited about wrestling being on Netflix because
me too.
The platform is great. I can't wait to watch paid live events on Netflix instead of trying to figure out what platform here in Canada to watch it on. Sportsnet.
Makes it so much easier. Yeah. Like when I'm coming back from Jamaica the day of the Royal Rumble, and like a couple of months ago, I was just like, how am I going to see this thing? But now I'm just like, I just literally watch it on my phone.
Yeah.
and when I get back. So like it's not going to be a problem.
I'm
And if
excited
I
to
don't
watch
do
it.
that, I can just watch it the next day on Netflix.
Oh, exactly. And it's seamless. Like they do a great job, and the content's going to be.
I don't want to keep promoting Netflix after what they did on Raw. So no more no more Netflix promos here. They got enough coverage on there on Raw.
All right.
Netflix is being praised enough.
All right. Well, maybe our next time we'll review tonight's episode of Raw, and we'll actually get this podcast out.
We'll see. You fans out there, you'll have to tune in to see what we review. If you like this, you can like and subscribe, please, and we'll have more for you in the future.
All right. All three of you. All right.
We do it for you. We do it for our fans.
All right. And cut.